All right, let's begin. So, as stated earlier, today's webinar and in the emails, we'll be going over the different ways of how you can search and find data within the system, organize it, export it, really build the visibility for you to be able to operate efficiently within the system, and also provide that information to outside people. And at the end of the day, run different types of analytics by building out specifically the reports that you want to. So as you know, in Amos, we don't limit users by saying, hey, you get these 5 lists of reports and that's all you get. It's a little bit different with us. Each company wants to see things a little bit differently. So we allow users to go in and build out the visibilities that they want. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and it should be popping up on the webinar right now. And we'll begin by walking over a couple of tools that will help you in your day-to-day life, but also for end of week, end of quarter, end of month, whatever else reporting as needed. So first thing we're going to do is log into the account within Amos. So this is my demo account that I'll be utilizing today. First thing that I do want to talk about is what we call the list screens and also the dispatch board of how you can organize the data. So right now, automatically, I got logged into my dispatch board. But if I go into the menu, for instance, and I click on views, which is a miscellaneous list of items and features within the system, and I click on orders, as you can see, I have a list of all of the orders. So this is what we call the list screens. So you have list screens for orders, trips. If you're a trucking company, we have everything for drivers, trucks, and trailers. If you are a brokerage, we have a list screen for all of your carriers. The list goes on and on and on. So once you're able to get into these screens, right, you access these screens, you now have to go in and make sense of all the information that is in front of you. So this is where we're going to begin the whole process of how do you build the reports? How do you save them, view them, export them, things like that. So I'm actually going to switch over to the order list because it'll be a little bit easier. And of course, we also have this for the accounting. So invoice list, payroll lists, things like that. So on the top right, you'll notice that all of these screens are going to have a couple of these options. You'll have the edit report button. You'll have the drop-down list of already created reports that you can run. And then also you'll have this icon that says download file, where you can generate the Excel to extract it from the TMS and do whatever else you need to, send it to people, run reports in Excel, you name it. So first thing that I'm going to do is click on edit report. Again, imagine all of this as if you're working within Excel or within your Google Sheet. This screen is really broken up into 3 parts. On the left side, you see we have a list of all of the fields. These are going to be your column headers. So as you can see in my case, I have the status, primary reference value, branch, events, first and last, and so on and so forth. Over here, we have different sorting options, so I can preset how this report will be sorted. Is it based on the pickup date, based on the delivery location, you name it. And then we have the filters. So the filters will allow you to say, only show me certain information. Take out all of these or only include these. So you can really pinpoint and drill down that data to see the information that you need to. You'll also notice on the top, we have a show notification. What this means is if you do have a notification set up, let's say for orders, for your fleet or your carriers, it will highlight that record within this screen, similarly to how you would see it in the dispatch board. So for instance, if there was a notification on this load, it would highlight it in yellow or red. So if we go back into edit report, like I said, first thing we're going to do is click on create or add fields. So if I click on add field, it'll start adding all of these selections for me. And then I can go in and select exactly which data based on the orders do I want to see. So my first thing that I'm going to select in my case is primary reference value. That is the load number that the system generated. I also, for instance, want to see what the customer was, who the customer was. So let's say it's the branch. Then we're going to say rate, total rate. And then I can say first event, location name, last event, location name, And then I can add another field to say margin, for instance. So this is giving you the idea that there's a lot of fields available and you can build out based on the column headers of how you want to see that information. And as you can see, we have everything from build to, in this case, truck information, events information, references, weights, carriers, accounts, items. The list goes on and on and on. Different charges that you want to see. All of that is possible to be pulled in to be able to see inside the report. But for now, we're just going to build a simple one and then go into more deeper, more advanced reports. Now, if I added these fields and I want to move them around into different positions, I can use this little drag and drop icon and move that field exactly where I want it to position within the column headers. If I don't need that field anymore, I can click on the trash can icon. And similarly, within an Excel sheet, I can freeze some of the fields. What that means is that these columns are going to be frozen in place. But if I have, let's say, 10 more fields after that, I can scroll through, left and right on all the information, but only these three will stay static without ever moving. And we'll see that later on in the call. Now, sorting, let's say I want to go look at based on the first event, pickup, early date. I can click on the arrow up and down and say, is it increasing or decreasing, ascending or descending? So it's going to start in this case with the latest date and then move up to the most recent date, or vice versa if I click descending. Then we have the filters. Again, this, in my opinion, is one of the most important parts when it comes to building these reports because it allows you to really drill down to what you want to see. So what I'm going to do is look at the status of the order since we're on the order screen, for instance. I only want to see loads that are currently in transit. So all I have to do is click on the plus sign, and it's going to open up the screen where I can add different filters because I can add more than one. So for now, what I'm going to do is click on or type in status because that's what I'm filtering on, select it, and then I'm going to click on the rule of that filter. So in this case, I have two options. It's in or not in. So what that means is if I select in, it's going to say, okay, in which statuses do you want me to show the loads? So I'm going to say in transit, or I can select multiple, for instance. Now, if I add another filter, for instance, I can also type in branch. I only want to see specific customers. So in this case, I'll say branch, but if I go to the different conditions of that filter, you can see now I have different options available because the reason, the status is just in or not in is because those statuses are hard-coded into the TMS. But in the customer name, those are free fields that you're able to enter or type in whenever you're adding the customer. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility. And this is what I mean. If I select equal, that means the customer name needs to match exactly what I type inside here. So if I misspell it, add a space, or whatever else, and it doesn't match what's inside the customer's profile in this case, it will not find that data. Now, to make it a little bit easier, I can go and use contain. So what that means is anywhere in the customer name, if there's a word Coca for Coca-Cola, show me those orders in this case, right? So this contain is what you are most used to in any system that you use when you have like a general search bar. All that is a contain because I can type in the first 5 letters of a word and it'll automatically find all the words that start with those 5 letters in that case. Now there's a few more options where I can say begin. So if I say any customers that begin with the letter C, show me those customers, right? Or they end with the letter A. So any customers that end with the letter A, it'll show me in this filter. Now down below then, we have the reverse. I can say, show me all the customers that do not equal this, or do not begin this with this letter, or do not end with this letter, or do not contain this string of values, or these, 5 letters, for instance. Now, if you do want to add, let's say, a few options, right? So I can say Home Depot. If I select in, I can type in a comma, space, and then Coca-Cola. So this allows you to have multiple filters smashed into one, basically, right? So now it'll show me all the loads that are for Home Depot and Coca-Cola. And on the reverse side, I could also do not in. Now for the ranges, you might have noticed that at the end, This is very useful for anything that you do with the dates. So if I go first event early date, that means the pickup date, I can say, show me the date range and select the exact dates for the pickup. Let's say for first quarter this year, go from January 1st through March 31st, and it'll only show me all of those loads. So for now, like I said, I'm only going to look at the status in transit. And then I'm also going to add this specific filter saying that only show me the pickups between January 1st and March 31st. So now that I have pre-built all of the fields that I want to see and all of the filters, I can click on the use button at the bottom, and this allows me to preview that report before saving it into the drop-down list. So based on the filters that I've added, system says that there are 9 loads that meet this criteria. And here they are, based on the columns that I want to see. And if I like the way that this report works, all I have to do is go back to edit report, click on save as new, and fill out this form. Now, some of this information in this form is very important, so keep very close attention to this. First is the report name. What are you going to call it? Because it's going to show up in that drop-down list, and you could also add it to the header of this page, so it allows you to go in and easily select that report for future use. So I'm going to say my favorite report, for instance, or we can say in transit Q1 report. Let's actually do that. In transit Q1 2025 reports. Then I can limit this by saying only specific people within the organization that are using Amous TMS can access this report. If I don't select this, that means everybody has access. But if I go in and say only admins within the company can utilize this report, then only people with that user permission role will have access to it. So it ties in with that user permission role, and thus the next time that you add a new user with the user permission role admin, they automatically receive all of the reports that have been saved specifically to this role. So it makes the onboarding a lot easier. Specifically, or especially if you're looking at dispatchers, operations people, accounting people, if you have special invoicing reports, all of that can be saved and nicely added to them as they're getting onboarded into the system. Description, this just allows you to go in and basically say, what does this report do? It's just like a common field. You could also set it as the default report. If I click on this, anytime that I go into the order list, this report will be pre-selected. So if I have 20 reports, this is going to be the default report for any time that I go into this screen. Now, this last option is very important because instead of having to go into the branch system and go in between multiple customer levels, right, to find reports where you built them, you can build all your reports, let's say at the master level, and then select for which customer is this report being built for, if it's specifically for a customer. So if I select Coca-Cola, in this case, that means only this report can only be accessed once I'm actually at the Coca-Cola level. So it allows you to just organize it and have an easier access point for editing or maintaining that report in the future. But for now, I'm going to remove this and then I will click submit. So once I have done that, you can notice on the top, or actually, let me refresh the screen really quick. If I go to the drop-down list of all my reports and start searching for, let's say, 2025, orders of 2025. Oh, it looks like I did not save that report. Let me add it back in. 31st, we'll just move this. We'll just call it 2025 Q1 report. There we go. You can see it's now in my drop-down list of reports that are available. Now, I can easily switch between the reports by selecting which one I want to see, but you'll also notice to the right, I have 2 options, the paperclip option and the pin option. Pinning it is the same thing as defaulting this report. So if I click on this pin, you can see 2025 Q1 report. And if I go to another screen and switch back to the order list, that is the default report for any time that I go into the order list. Now, next thing is you'll notice you'll also have the paperclip icon. If I click on that, it will add this report to the header of the screen. And then each user will be able to build their own visibility and also move them around into different positions. That way, it allows you to go in and easily switch between different visibilities based on how you want to see the data. Now, once you've built everything out, obviously for each column header, you have the different options to filter out or search by each column, right? If it's a date, you can select on the calendar which date you want to view. And if you ever need to make an update to the report, all you have to do is select the report, click Edit Report, make any adjustments. So I'll add this time, the status needs to be in transit. I'll click on Update Report, make any adjustments here, submit, and now 2025 Q1 report is updated with that filter that only shows in transit loads. So as mentioned before, this is all over the system anytime that you have a list, right? To the left side, these icons might change depending on which screen that you're on. So since I'm in the order screen, I can click on the little, pathway icon. So that way I can open up the detail screens. I could also click on the trash can icon. And on the right side, you have the three dots that allows you to perform actions on this order without having to go into the details. So you can click go to detail, duplicate this order, create a template from it, cancel this order, or change the branch or which customer this order is assigned to. Again, these options will change depending on which screen that you're working on. Now, one thing that I did miss, that once you select the report, if there are any filters applied to this report, you'll notice them right over here. And if I click on one of them, I can easily go in and make adjustments. So instead of March 31st, I can say April 30th, submit, and it'll make an update. Or I can go to the status and say, oh, and show me also delivered loads, submit, and now I have 76 loads. So instead of having to go to edit report, save it, update it, it allows you to just quickly go in and make updates to the filter that are defaulted in that report. And if you don't want that filter anymore, you just click the X icon, and thus you're back to square zero, where you see all of the loads with no filters in this case. So I'm just going to go in and show you examples. For instance, if I go into my trip side, it's going to be very similar, right? You can see I have different reports set up, again, that I can quickly switch between. If I go to the drop-down list, even more reports, trailer lookups. You could also build out that these prompt values pop up. Basically, anytime you select a report, this thing pops up and says you need to enter a value, right? In this case, the trailer number. And all you have to do to make that work is click on prompt values on the top. And when you set up the filter, instead of entering something in the value field, leave it blank and then save or update that report. So that way you have that prompt popping up. Users, we have all the reports, same exact screen. And once you have build out reports, again, if I click on generate Excel, what'll happen at this point is a nice Excel will generate with all the data exactly how you built it out. Now, one more thing that I want to cover when it comes to these reports, really this is more on the admin side, is one place where you can access a list of all the reports, manage them, delete them, update them, instead of having to go into each branch and making that adjustment. So what I'm going to do is go into my views in the menu and then click on Report Manager. So if I click on Report Manager, you can see I have 263 reports that are built within this account. And this is going to seem a little confusing, but within this list, you also have the reporting tool. So you can pick and choose what information do you want to see about the reports to make updates to them. So there's things like which branch are they on, what's the name of the report, the type of report. So for instance, this is a customer invoice, who created it, when did they create this report? And if you click on the three dots, you'll be able to click on edits and make adjustments, same way that we did before, without having to go to the different screens and finding that report. If you need to create a new report, you can click on Create New Report. If I select one of the reports or multiple, I can click on Other Actions on the bottom right, and set myself as the owner. So if I set myself as the owner of that report, which you can see is by the created by, that allows me to make adjustments, delete that report, basically do a lot more with it as if I had originally created that report. So again, very useful tool. We are aware that a lot of people don't want to use it, or they get scared of it, and there's nothing scary about it. Think about it as if it's an Excel sheet, right? And for you to make your day-to-day a lot easier, build out the visibilities that you want, the columns that you want, export the data, do what you need to do to make your life a lot easier. Now, next thing that I do want to cover is the analytics. So analytics are kind of tied in with these reports because similarly, you're pulling the data based on like those columns that we were doing, like what data do I want to see about the orders or the trips, for instance. But instead of just seeing a simple Excel list, I'm able to go in and create pivot tables, right? So if you've never done pivot tables, it's basically a way to aggregate data based on columns and rows, groupings, subgroupings even, add different calculations, highlight data, really drill down into the nitty-gritty as far as what you need to see. So in order to access the pivot tables, there's a few ways to do it. If I go into the menu and click on analytics, you'll notice on the top, I have trip and order. So these are just general access points for those pivot tables for me to see the data. And here's an example of one of those. But if I need to, I can go throughout the system. And again, if I go to the order list, right, where we were just working a few minutes ago, you can see I have the pivot table selection on the top left. It'll switch me over and it's the same exact access point as what we saw in the analytics page, right? So since we were talking about orders, we'll continue about the orders, and I'll go over how these types of reports are built out. So what we're going to do is on the top right, you can notice that it's very similar to the list screens where I have a drop-down list of all the reports that have been created. So I'll be able to go in and select which one I want to view. I can click on edit report or create a new report from the edit report screen and start building out what I want to see inside the pivot table. So in this case, I selected I want to see my customer, my margins, status, event count, primary reference value, rate, distances, trip counts, and last event complete date. In this case, I'm just going to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to select or remove some of these selections. Actually, let's add rate back in because we're going to build out an RPM. And it will remove the event count as well and status. So there we go. Simple customer, my margin, my rates, load number, and also the distance. So I'll click save as new, and we'll call this customer RPM reports. And of course, you can add any filters that you want based on dates, statuses, whatever else. But we're going to keep it simple for this example and click submit. Now, once I've selected all of the fields that I want within the edit report, and I'm also going to go in and we're going to pin it into the top of the page. I'm going to click on the fields, and this is where it gets a little bit more fun because this is taking it to that next step versus what you did in the list screen. So within the fields, you'll notice that I have the branch, margin, and all the other values that I've selected. And this is where I can go in and start adding them into columns, rows, values, and adding the calculated values. So for instance, I can go in and say, I don't want the branch, or I do want to see the branch. In what order do I want to see it, right? So first I'm going to see the customers and then the load number. So if I do that, apply it, here's the customers first. And if I expand it by clicking the little icon to the left of the customer name, it's now showing me all of the primary reference values, exactly what we told the system to do. Values is going to be the sum of all of the numbers, basically, in this case. What I mean by that is we have the distances. So this is going to be, in my case, the miles. You have all the rates and you have all of the margins. So it's going to show them and also sum them up at the bottom of the screen if I scroll down on this report itself. Now, if I want to go in and get creative, I can start adding different values or calculated values. What does that mean? If I click on this button on the top, I can go in and say, all right, let's take the distance, right? So we're taking that field and we're going to click on this divide icon. And then we're going to take the rate as well. So it's very a simple calculation that I'm saying, take the distance divided by the rate. So we get the rate per mile. And now that I realized it, I did it the opposite way. So it's going to be the rate divided by the distance. And then I'm going to call this Mark's RPM report or field. And once I apply it and apply it again, there's Mark's RPM field. So it took the rates and divided by the distance. So it gives you a lot more flexibility where you can start calculating things. Something else that we can do. Let's say I want to do commissions. I'm going to say this is going to be 5% commission. I can take the rate, click on the multiply icon, and then click 0.05. Apply it, and there's the commissions now. So it's taking 5% of the total rates. Now, once I have all of these fields in, something else that you can do. If I click on the right click on one of the fields, I can do what's called number formatting. What this means is I can select how does the text align? Is it centered? Is it left, right? What's the decimal separator? What's the currency symbol? How many decimal places do I want to go? I'm going to say only 2 in this case. If it's a negative number, what's the format of it? If it's an accounting, we can put it in parentheses. Format as a percentage, we're going to say false. So there's just you formatting the data, again, similarly to how you do in Excel with how you want to see it. So if I click apply, you can see now it added only 2 decimal places at the end. And if there was going to be a negative number, it would be in parentheses. Now later, what I can do is right click on the field and add conditional format. What does this do? If I add a condition, I can say specifically for Mark's RPM field, if it's less than 3 for my RPM, I'll click on the A, highlight the whole thing in red, and make the text white, for instance. That's just the way I want to see it. Oops, let's go back. Red, text, white, apply it, and there we go. So the system will automatically mark all of the data that you said is under 3 in this case, so $3, which is the RPM. So this is just giving you an idea that throughout, let's say, the order list, trip list, we also have it on fleet maintenance, margin reports, route reports. The list goes on and on. Pivot table can be accessed from anywhere. You are aggregating the data, grouping it the way you want to see it, adding the calculated values, marking the system or telling the system to mark certain data the way you want to see it. Thus, anytime you go inside here, you'll be able to pull up that report and really drill down on the information that you need to see. And if I click update report, it's going to save everything exactly the way I want to see it. And now, if you'll notice, I can switch between multiple reports. We've seen customers get very, very creative with these reports. Anything from building 1099 visibilities for driver payrolls or vendor payrolls to different margin reports, quarterly reports. You could also do commissions based on different structures for different customer levels. I mean, the list goes on. And you need to be very imaginative with it. And if you need to see that data, you build out that report and it'll be able to spit it out for you. And if you do have any issues with building out the reports, you are more than welcome to reach out to your implementation manager, and they'll be happy to jump on a call and walk you through it. So that way you get the data that you want. Now, a few more things that I want to show inside the screen is that you can have the grid view, which is the current view that we're on, but I can also switch over to the chart view. So I can create a column, a bar chart, line, scatter, pie, list goes on and on. And then inside here, you'll be able to switch based on which specific field are we looking at the pie chart. So in this case, the total rates. I can make adjustments to the branches, to the reference values, the statuses. I could also expand the list down below so it shows me exactly, in this case, which load numbers are part of the broker division or CH Robinson, right? Right inside here, and which one, it kind of goes from which one has the highest rate to the lowest rate. Something else that we can do is if we go to the grid view, is if I click on the fields, and based on the last event complete date, I can say, do everything by quarter, and I'll move it by date to the top, apply it, and you can see I have quarter 4 for October, November, and December. So I basically went in and I grouped everything by quarter. So there you have it. 2 very, very important aspects to the system. You have the list screen reports, build it out exactly how you want to see the data in front of you. And then you have the deeper dive with the pivot tables to group, subgroup, add conditional formatting, different calculated values. So you see the data exactly the way you need to run reports on how your company health is, for instance. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day.